We get live right now, man. It's going down. Excited for the season. You know, we coming off a playoff win. I mean, you know, we had a couple wins.
Hello and welcome to Deer Diaries, a Milwaukee Bucks podcast presented by us, the staff of Brew Hoop, or should I say presented by me, Riley Feldman, one of your usual co-hosts, doing it solo for the first try at an instant reaction podcast. This is coming 5-10 minutes after game one between the Pacers and the Bucks finishes 109-94 in favor of the Bucks. We're going to be trying to run these out as often as we can during the playoffs, just give you a quick 15 to 20 minutes. Thoughts on the game, looking through the box score, state of the series, et cetera, and what is the state of the series after game one? Bucks look really good. It's about as perfect of a performance from about the halfway point of the first quarter onwards as you could hope. Let's just run through the numbers real quick. The one who will be grabbing a lot of the headlines, Damian Lillard, great first half. Goes 11 of 24 from the floor, 6 of 11 from three, 7 of 7 from the line for 35.6 rebounds, 3 assists. He has 3 turnovers, but that's all right. Clearly, the first half had the order from Doc Rivers on the sideline to gun it, and he did just that. I liked a lot of the driving he did. The finishing around the rim was great. There was a couple of heat check threes in there, but you can't really blame the guy. He was really, he was hot. He was making some tough shots left, right, and center. He made one at the buzzer at the end of the first quarter, which was great to put the Bucks kind of, I think it was from 27, it was a 30-21 lead after the first off of Dame. So great first half from him in terms of scoring, which is exactly what you wanted to see out of him. One of the great concerns the past couple weeks, almost the entire season was, who is Damian Lillard once the playoffs hit? We have an idea based off of his somewhat brief experience in Portland what that guy is. He's had great buzzer beater against like Houston, but who would he be with the Bucks with Giannis Antetokounmpo out? Great player. Didn't score in the second half, but we'll get to the rest of the guys that did enough of a job to be able to carry even without him scoring. So great performance from Dame. I also wanted to give him a shout out on defense, and this is going to be something I get into in a few minutes here as well. But active hands, really, I'm trying to think of many possessions where he was quite obviously the sore thumb sticking out. So if you're getting sort of that kind of performance, and in the second half, if he drags it forward, continues to make baskets, Bucks are going to romp a lot of teams, even in the playoffs. So shout out to Damian Lillard. We'll go to him first. Second guy I want to give spotlight to Khris Middleton. He was the glue guy. So Lillard has the great first half. Khris has the great second quarter and fourth quarter, especially to start each of those quarters. He ends up with 23 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, just a block in there as well, and a turnover. It's the kind of performance that we have come to expect from Khris year after year after year. It's the reason why he's the perfect second to third banana, because he can manufacture points. Unlike almost everybody else on the team, Giannis manufactures points by being physically dominating. Khris manufactures them largely through moxie, obviously skill, things like that. But in the second quarter and fourth quarter, it was him distributing, him driving, him isolating either baseline, elbow, wing, and kind of getting the shimmy move that continues to get like even Pascal Siakam. And then credit to the rest of the Bucks around Khris for moving great creative off-ball movement to be that release valve, especially in the second quarter, to get the pass right underneath the basket and just put it right up. So it wasn't just Khris all his own. He finishes the game plus 25, leads the Bucks, Bobby right behind him at plus 23. So vintage Khris Middleton performance in terms of his distribution, his ability to make shots, 9 of 14 from the floor. Only gets 4 shots up from 3, but that's okay because he was doing so much work inside the 3-point line. So I just wanted to shout him out as well. If the Bucks are going to go far without Giannis, this is not rocket science. This is basketball analysis, folks. Khris Middleton and Damian Lillard playing well would help that out quite a bit. So tonight they did their jobs on the offensive end of the floor, especially. And I, again, don't recall many possessions where I thought either of them really stood out as a negative on defense either. Let's run through the rest of the guys. Two that if I was to highlight role players right now, it would be Bobby Portis and Patrick Beverly. Let's start with Bobby. We saw it. So he gets the start in lieu of Giannis. So the starting lineup is Dame, Pat Bev, Khris, Bobby, and Brooks. So we end up going a little bit big with the starting lineup. And Bobby pays it off by making his shots. We've been saying it for months that if Bobby makes his shots, Doc Rivers goes down as a basketball genius and elite ball knower. And if Bobby is not making his shots, then we all say, when can Bobby be on the next plane out of town? Tonight, Bobby made his shots. A lot of tough ones, too. Jawing with Obi Toppin, who is somebody he has had beef with all season long. There must be something about the Pacers that really drives Bobby nuts, because it was after the loss to the Pacers in the in-season tournament that Bobby had a conniption on Adrian Griffin. So Bobby, 15 points, 11 rebounds, 7 of 15 from the floor. Doesn't make a three. It only takes 2 of them. So he wasn't really gunning from out there, which is good. And an assist as well. Fouls out at the end of the game, which is funny. The game was pretty much out of contention at that point anyhow, but funny that Bobby racks up enough fouls to foul out. And it was not dumb on him. The ref should have called a push off with the elbow from Siakam, but it is what it is. Bobby, he makes shots. He makes close to 50%. And you say, this is going really, really good. So it'll be curious. He had his spurts in the second and fourth quarter alongside Khris Middleton. It's just that real fine balance. Like, does he get the ball on the baseline and he's just like, I'm going to try and bully ball another guy? Or is he getting the ball after setting a screen and then Dame or Khris or whoever finds him just inside the 3-point line, or like I said, at the elbow, where Bobby doesn't have time to think, or it's not a traditional post up position. Instead, he just has to essentially turn and shoot it, or has to make that first move. And it's kind of an in motion shot rather than trying to force an actual isolation, because the couple of times he went ISO heavy, he got blocked at least once, maybe twice. And it just doesn't look as smooth, which is not all that surprising. But if he is able to work within the flow of the offense, we're doing great things. And tonight, his teammates helped him out with that. For the most part, he did a pretty good job as well. But like I said, fouls out. So something to keep an eye on. But if Bobby makes shots, we're all happy about it. And then Patrick Beverly, only 5 points, 8 assists from this guy, 7 rebounds, 2-5 from the floor. The reason why Pat Bev is getting a spotlight here is because he was the guy, or it's not just him, but he is the key component to how the Bucks are going to stabilize their perimeter defense, whether that the lineups include Pat Bev, Damian Lillard, and Malik Beasley. There was a stretch in the third quarter, or was it maybe it was in one of the quarters? I'm sorry, I can't recall right now, but there was a stretch where I commented, we were doing a playback stream. Highly encourage you go look that out, playback.tv/brewhoop, I believe, if you want to watch the game with us while we comment, or while we comment on the game while it's live. You could tell that the switching on the perimeter in particular was so vastly improved, or part of it is effort, but I think part of it too is just having the communicator. And Patrick Beverly is nothing if not a communicator. Like, the guy is talking all the time. I think Brook Lopez does a decent job of directing a switching defense from his position underneath the basket. But in a series like this, where Miles Turner, Indiana Pacers starting center, is typically either setting screens far out, or he's playing off ball and waiting to be like the kick out guy, Brook Lopez isn't in position to necessarily direct the defense. So a lot of it comes down then to who is going to the perimeter guy who does it. And Patrick Beverly is that guy. I mean, clearly Doc Rivers deputized him to go out there, not take shots, but be able to move the ball around, be able to dribble with the ball, pass the ball, and most importantly, be able to connect himself and whatever other guards are out there to make the perimeter defense function. Now, it was a bit of a strange performance from Tyrese Halliburton in particular from the Pacers. 9 points, 8 assists, 7 rebounds. Only gets up 7 shots. Pascal Siakam takes 25 shots. And he goes 5 of 10 from the line, which was also bewildering to watch. Miles Turner's goes 5 of 17. The Pacers as a team made 2 3-pointers in the first half. They made another 6 in the second half. Not necessarily off of bad looks, but they were just, you could tell, I think, a little tight. A lot of these guys, their first playoff experience, either in a while or ever. But for the Bucks, I think you can kind of credit a little bit to they weren't allowing a ton of straight line drives from the perimeter. It was a lot of great switching, great help defense. Malik Beasley had a really bad stretch in the third and fourth quarter, but where he got blown by a bunch. But for the most part, he even did a great job of like, okay, Siakam's going to try and, or Halliburton, whoever it is, takes off from that high screen pretty much at the top of the key, or yeah, at the top of the key, turns and tries to go straight line. And Malik makes the right read because he's close enough to kind of step in, but not like overcommit to get in front of the guy where it's like a, a possibility of getting foul or getting called for a foul or leaving his guy so far alone that it's like, okay, there's not even anything we can do here. Like it's just going to be a wide open shot. So I think Pat Bev had a lot to do with that. He plays a total of almost 37 minutes. Damian Lillard plays almost 38 minutes. Khris 34 minutes. So it wasn't, I wouldn't even call it a gamble, but when Rivers went to Pat Bev as the starter at the end of the season, it was the move that I'm not going to say for everybody, but I and others have been thinking that's the obvious switch, right? Malik Beasley goes to the bench. Pat Bev comes onto the floor. You stabilize, in theory, the offense. You don't need Pat to take a lot of threes, even with his busted up wrist. You don't need him to take a lot of shots because that's what Khris, Giannis, and Dame are all there for. So I think it's not going to call it a masterstroke yet, but Patrick Beverly looked really, really good in this game. And he's going to be critical, especially with the guards that the Pacers have. And if he can continue to be a nuisance along with everybody else of Tyrese Halliburton, the Bucks are going to be in a really, really good position. Let's talk through a couple other things. So challenges to keep an eye out for game 2 on Tuesday. Number 1, progression to the mean for the Pacers, especially from 3-point shooting. So they go a total of 8 of 39, make about 20% of their threes. That is probably not going to be that bad heading forward. Now, we're Bucks fans. We've seen teams that just really, really struggle for a long time, almost entire series shooting from 3. So it's a possibility that maybe this team just for whatever reason struggles from 3. But let's say the Pacers make even, I don't know what their season average, so let's just assume it's like 37%. So they're making like another 5 threes, 5, 6, 7 threes or something along those lines. How do the Bucks survive that punch? Because the Pacers threw a couple of punches, especially coming out of the second half or out of halftime into the second half. And then early in the fourth, the Bucks weathered it. I think the Pacers got it down to 12 and 14 at different points, and the Bucks were able to respond. What happens though when that first quarter, which was a little sloppy from Milwaukee, it's made even worse by the Pacers, a couple of guys hitting like great threes from the get-go. When the defense starts to slack off for the Bucks in the third quarter, and then the Pacers continue to hunt threes, how then do they respond if those threes start falling? So that's the trouble. Is like, this was not the trouble. This was a perfect night for the Bucks essentially, and the Pacers did a lot of things to help make that happen. So this was not necessarily only the Bucks. I think the Pacers were shooting themselves in the foot as well. So the question will be if the Pacers avoid doing that in the future, if they shoot even somewhat close to their averages, that changes the complexion of the game quite a bit. Maybe Damian Lillard gets more involved in the second half, running the offense. I'll just be curious to keep an eye on that in the future. And then just looking through here, just any other things I want to shout out. AJ Green gets a few minutes, didn't look great, missed all 3 of his threes, got pulled pretty promptly after that in the fourth quarter. Jay Crowder, decent. Again, just have to worry about the straight line drives from Siakam going right at him. I think, again, the perimeter defense goes a long way to helping out with that. So if the guys on the perimeter can help Jay out, then Jay is going to be passable to pretty good for this team, especially against the Pacers. And then Brook Lopez, 3 blocks, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. Would I say this is one of Brook's better games? It was like a good game from Brook. Let's not get too crazy with it. He's the safety blanket. If everything else fails, Brook will be the guy at the rim. Sometimes it's tough because if everything else has failed, he's probably in like not great position because of Miles Turner, who he's primarily trying to guard. So something to keep an eye on. But I think great performance from the Bucks. Great rotations for the most part from Doc Rivers. He gave AJ Green a chance. AJ Green didn't make threes, and he was looking a little iffy on defense. Okay, pull him. The only choice I would have quibbled with was the idea of keeping Malik Beasley on the floor in the fourth quarter when the Pacers had got it down to like 16. TJ McConnell got past Malik a couple of times. So it's easy for me at home to say, okay, we got to pull Malik. Then Malik hits like 2 threes to essentially break the Pacers back and push it back up to 20. So goes to show all the ball knowledge that I have compared to Doc Rivers. But just curious, first experiment with the rotations. It's who you would expect. It's all the veteran guys plus AJ Green. So Danilo Gallinari didn't see the floor. Progress. We're going to call that progress. So Bucks up 1-0 after one game. Great performance. We'll see if they can keep it up. Game 2 is on Tuesday. I believe it's on NBA TV. So shout out to all of you cable package holders because you will be the only ones watching that game. But I think nowadays you can watch NBA TV games on League Pass. So if you're a League Pass haver, Tuesday is your Alamo or whatever the an analogy would be. So I'm just going to wrap it up there. 15 minutes, pretty end-to-end game for the Bucks. About as good of a start as you could hope for. Good of his response from the end of the regular season as we could have hoped for. We appreciate you listening as always. We will continue to have the instant reactions for the games 2, 3, and 4. And I'm hoping we'll get the full crew back together for a full episode to get a state of the series, depending on where it's at in about a week's time. But as usual, follow all the coverage at brewhoop.com, pre-game, during, post-game coverage on the site, Monday Media Roundup. Like I said, we have the playback going on now. I believe you can find that on the articles on Brew Hoop, where obviously it's going to be on our Twitter, things like that. But essentially, the stream of the game is on there, and we're the staff of Brew Hoop are in the lobby talking through the game. You've probably seen some other content creators in the NBA space do this as well. So if you're interested in watching the game alongside of us and getting our insights, huge air quotes for those who are just listening, you're more than welcome to join in. It was a lot of fun tonight. Just kind of, probably hope that the game was good, but a lot of fun if you're looking for more ways to watch the game with other people who are into the Bucks as well. So I'm going to wrap it up there. Like, subscribe, send to your friends, all of that stuff. And we will talk to you again very soon.